Welcome back, everyone, to the Tuesday edition of Sports Call. Brett Pritchard, Randy Lee, and Andy Graham here with you on a beautiful Tuesday afternoon. And at this time, I want to go back to the phone lines and welcome in WarBlogle. WarBlogle, thanks so much for being part of the program.
Hey, guys. Thanks for having me.
Hey, and WarBlogle, first of all of us caught up in the world of Twitter. Twitter's an amazing tool out there to get your message out and to get people riled up. And I know you, as an Auburn fan, try to do that on occasion, take as many sarcastic shots at other teams out there as possible. But I do have to ask a question. 31,000 followers strong and gaining followers. What's the magic behind the madness?
I really don't know. I mean, it's just, I think, I got started on Twitter before it was really a big thing. I was one of the first Auburn sites out there that kind of picked up on it and started using it. When I started, my blog was, probably being read by my mom and my brothers, and that was about it. And then once things started picking up on Twitter, it kind of grew from there. The 2010 season obviously helped, and I can tell this season as well. I mean, any Auburn writer out there, anybody looking for page views and things like that, know that if the team's doing good, people want to read about Auburn, and people for Auburn writers and websites and things like that. So I'd say 2010 and this year have been pretty good to me in terms of gaining followers and things like that.
Well, and to be able to tweet as much as you do, you've got to constantly be on there, and and that's part of it is just exposure and doing what a lot of people that are on Twitter do, and that's just come up with content, generate content, and again, last year it had to be pretty tough. It wasn't fun for any of us as Auburn fans last year. Glad a new day has dawned over here at WarBlogle.
Oh, definitely. I mean, last year was about as rough as it can get. We all know that. And, it caused people to turn on Auburn people I had Auburn people hating me because, I'm a homer. I'm going to be positive about everything. I'm going to pull for whoever we've got to the bitter end. And, people, were on me because I didn't yell fire Chiswick or fire Jacobs or whatever, because I'm not that kind of guy. I don't care. I'm not going to be that way. But this year, everybody's coming back around, and we're all happy and fun, and we're all a family again. But yeah, I mean, in terms of being, getting stuff out there all the time, I'm really stubborn, and I get mad at myself if I don't put something out there daily or every once in a while on Twitter. So that's kind of been the key, is just keep doing it, regardless if anybody's listening. Just keep doing it, and eventually it'll grow, and somebody will listen.
Hey, WarBlogle, this is Andy. Our question of the day was, the Miami sanctions came down from the NCAA today. We are asking people, is it fair or is it unfair? What say you?
I mean, it does kind of seem a little light. I'm kind of weird, and I don't know if it's because of all the stuff, the Cam stuff that happened or what, but I kind of am on the NCAA side more than most people seem to be, at least more than most people on Twitter seem to be. I don't really care about that kind of stuff. I just, I hate that aspect of the game. I hate when you have to sit people down because, they might have gotten an extra benefit or something like that. I mean, everybody's got to follow the rules, and, there obviously could be cases where people were going to Miami just for this, and Miami they actually weren't good during this time, but they could have been a better team because they were getting this stuff. But all the stuff with that booster, and they knew about him and all that kind of stuff, the loss of scholarships does seem a little bit light. I mean, that's going to hurt them a tad, but they're in the ACC. They're going to compete there. They're already kind of moving up a little bit. But yeah, I mean, I guess it in the grand scheme, it was a little light. But like I said, I don't get into that. It doesn't bother me that much, whether one way or the other.
We've got WarBlogle on the phone with us here on Sportscall, and WarBlogle, this Auburn football team, again, nobody really thought at this point in time would be 6-1, a narrow escape from their own home. LSU was able to hold on, and outside of a quarter there, the first quarter, it was even Steven football game, and it was a lot of youth on the road in a nasty environment that kind of culminated in a loss that night. But I was very impressed, as we had Quentin Riggins on just a little bit ago, and with how our team fought the good fight out in College Station and was able to hold on and beat Johnny Manziel's team out there. And, coming down the stretch, you look at some of the teams. Georgia may not be as good as a lot of people think, but they're getting Todd Gurley back. Tennessee now scares me a little bit more than they did a month ago. Arkansas doesn't look like they're much, but you still got to go to their place, and there'll be a lot of emotion around that with Gus Malzahn going back to Arkansas. So a lot of big games left on the slate, and not to mention the Georgia and Alabama game at the very end at home.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what got me. And again, I'm a homer. I'm always going to be extra positive. But at the beginning of the season, all the predictions were 6-6 and maybe 5-7, and Auburn's going to have to take a few years to rebuild and all that kind of stuff. And that's people just being safe. They don't want to go out on a limb, and they didn't want to give Auburn credit for anything because they're still bitter about 2010. But Auburn has had 3 or 4 top 15 recruiting classes in a row, and I mean that's what I didn't understand was how can you say they don't have good talent, they don't have whatever, just because Gene Chizik made terrible decisions to go to Scott Leffler last year and other smaller decisions like that. But, I mean, it all goes back to 2010, really, when it comes down to perception. People didn't think, people thought Auburn cheated. They thought they weren't good. And so on a national scale, people thought, oh, well, Auburn has never been good, and they just paid for a championship. So 2012 was just justification and vindication for them to be like, well, see, this is the real Auburn. This is what Auburn's always been like. When they're absolutely wrong. What Auburn is this year is what Auburn's been like. Auburn goes on the road and beats good teams. Auburn is somewhat the perennial underdog, even though, we're a top 15 team nationally, for the whole, looking at the grand scheme of college football. And this is Auburn. What Auburn did this past weekend is exactly what that's Pat Dye. That's what Tuberville even did. Going on the road and beating a team that nobody gives you a chance to beat. I mean, it was like 2007, going down there and beating Tebow on the road when Lou Holtz said he would, run for senator of Florida or whatever he said. And, we've got a bunch of tough games coming up. Arkansas always gives us trouble. It doesn't matter if they've got 3 wins. They've always been that annoying gnat. That's what I've always called them, just that fly in the ointment, as Tim Brando says. It doesn't matter how good we are, how bad they are. They're just that sneaky team that's always going to have that one good game against us. And I think a lot of Auburn fans are scared because of that. I mean, I know they've given up 52 points 2 weeks in a row, but Arkansas always sticks out to Auburn and scares Auburn. Now, Tennessee did seem like it was going to be a little bit of an easier game. I mean, going up there and playing is not always easy, but with the way they were able to knock off South Carolina last week, that does put a little more fear into that game. Georgia and Alabama, you can, as they always say, you can throw out the record book. Yes, the better team usually wins, but those are always going to be, knockout. 2010, Georgia had 5 wins, I think, and it was a pretty close game. Auburn was down 2 touchdowns in the first half. So, I'm very optimistic. Everybody wants to look ahead and say, SEC West title game in the Iron Bowl, but we still do have a long way to go.
Yeah, you're right. There is an incredible amount of football still yet to be played. The turnaround from Gus Malzahn and his coaching staff this year has really been quite phenomenal, and Auburn finds itself 11th in the BCS rankings, which we're all just can't believe that that's the case right now in this season. What have you been most impressed with in this turnaround?
Really, it's the defense. I mean, there's coaches out there that are just born coordinators. Ellis Johnson went to Southern Miss, didn't win a single game. If he was there maybe 2 or 3 more years, he probably would have built it up a little bit better. But Ellis Johnson is one of the best defensive coordinators in the game, so I guess it shouldn't have been too much of a surprise that he's got them where he's got them already. But, last year it wasn't – I mean, it seemed like it was a talent deficiency, but it was just straight up, fundamentals and not being able to tackle and not taking the right angle. And in 1 year, they're knocking people's heads off. I mean, Robinson Therese, he pretty much – they wanted to call targeting. Gary Danielson wanted to call targeting multiple times, but it was basically he just knocked the guy down. And, that's probably the biggest thing. Linebacker, Chris Bronson looked decent. He had that great tackle at the end of the game. That's probably the most efficient position we have. But, the way they're playing, the success we're having, he's going to be able to recruit better at that position. But that's probably it. I mean, defense, they have won the game for us. Kind of the last 2 weeks, that have been able to shut it down in the fourth quarter. Haven't given up many points in the fourth quarter at all this year. The offense is where I knew it would be because I know the Valentine offense works. So I guess, definitely defense would be the biggest turnaround.
Well, WarBlogle, again, all good stuff here, and we're glad that you joined us here on the program. But before I let you go, out there, you're anonymous to everybody. So just talk about that a little bit. Does that add to the lore on Twitter of why people maybe follow you as you're this guy out there that everybody's trying to figure out who it is talking about Auburn, and how do you embrace that?
I mean, it's all fun to me. I mean, I've kind of, in the history of WarBlogle, I've kind of gone back and forth. I mean, I kind of started out anonymous and then decided not to, and then went back to it again. I mean, if you Google out there, you'll probably find who I am, and that doesn't bother me. I mean, tons of Alabama fans have found out who I am and like to tweet my name and all that kind of stuff. But it does add to the mystery. I think people. It's more interesting to them to be, to wonder who this mysterious figure out there writing about Auburn is. And a lot of people, especially Alabama fans, think I do it out of fear or I'm hiding behind something. And it's not that at all. I don't care. If you come to the tailgate, I'll be glad to meet you and show you my face and all that kind of stuff. I don't wear a mask in person. It's just, it's just a fun thing. It's just, I don't know. It does add to the allure and to the mystery. And I guess it makes people want to read more. I don't know.
Hey, look, in this day and age with all the different technology at our hands and our fingertips, hard for anybody, even in the witness protection agency, to become anonymous in this world. So very, very tight-knit world. But, hey, man, we appreciate it, WarBlogle. We look forward to having you on again, hopefully in a few weeks, talk about some more Auburn wins. And as Auburn heads down this home stretch, competing for an SEC West title and hopefully an SEC regular title. And again, good stuff. We appreciate you being on the show.
All right, thanks again, War Eagle.
Thank you so much, War Eagle, and that's WarBlogle. Andy, and Twitter has become a tool that a lot of us use. We use it right here on Sportscall. We use it on Sports Blitz, our other program. Just a great way to get your message out to the masses out there. And again, we talked about it. You got to have content. You got to have followers out there. He's got 31,000, and we continue to build our followers right here on our programs, and we want people to follow us because hopefully we're the source that everybody comes to for the latest in their information.
Definitely. When we were in school at Auburn in 1997 and taking mass media.
You weren't supposed to say that. So.
Taking mass media, and, we were talking about television and radio, and those were the mediums. And now, to think where we've come to. Now in 2013.
What do you think our textbook is now? That textbook we use there.
It's firewood. It has gone the way of the dodo. It's incredible. And I'm a caveman. I'm still trying to catch up. And how do you catch up? Because something comes out new every other day.
Well, WarBlogle was kind of like a guy that gets in on an IPO on a stock. He said he was one of the first Auburn guys on Twitter when it was really becoming popular. And you look up and you got 31,000 followers because you were the first guy out there and everybody went to you. And then you go back and, as you come on, it takes you a little bit longer. You may reap benefits and you will reap benefits, but it may not be as quickly as some of the guys that got in on the front side. But, that's just my comparison there to the stock market for any of you stock market gurus out there that are happen to be listening here on Sports Call. Andy, we're up against a break here, and we come back. It'll be the last segment of the show. We'll talk about games around the country from this past weekend, some crazy matchups and some crazy outcomes on some of those games, and we'll continue to take your phone calls as well. More to come on the Tuesday edition of Sports Call.